easy to blow up. It just shows the power of that kind of draft.
All right, well, we're ready for the battleground of game number 4. Potentially, Roll20 eSports could lose this one and lose the series to Gale Force. But it is a comfortable place for Roll20, so I think it is very likely that we make it all the way to game 5 in the series. And I would have it no other way. Gale Force picks Infernal Shrines.
But this shows, again, a shift in mentality for the teams. The fact that Gale Force is willing to take this to Infernal Shrines against a team like Roll20, and the fact that maps like Towers of Doom were available. You know, Sky Temple was up too. It's just that teams are getting more and more comfortable, or more moving into that direction, changing their map priority. It's not so much the comfortability in the map, but they are now going, well, you know, we think we're a little bit better at Shrines than we were before. Maybe our Towers game isn't as good as we thought it was.
Definitely something to consider is that Vala, Ariel, Tassadar 2, the trifecta of heroes. Another potential Stitches battleground. We had Stitches from Gale Force eSports versus Naventic yesterday here, and the Medivh.
The Medivh. It'll be interesting to see where he falls into this draft. Infernal Shrines is one of probably the 4 maps that Roll20 is comfortable playing Medivh onto. Tomb of the Spider Queen, Battlefield of Eternity, Infernal Shrines, missing whatever the last one is off the top of my head. And so it just, I expect it's typically with like either with the Dahaka and with the Malfurion play, or it's with the Diablo, or the other one is a main core is the Gul'dan, which I can see rising in power for either one in the draft if Medivh makes it through.
Did you mention Tomb?
Tomb. I don't remember now even what I said before. I told you I kind of black out when I'm up here. It's like a goldfish. Like past 10 minutes is like I have actually no idea.
You mean 10 seconds?
That too.
I think 10 minutes is generous to a goldfish.
You know, maybe they might not be the brightest crayons in the box.
But they have heart.
Exactly.
They have heart.
And no one's sitting there respecting the effort. Like, can you imagine if that was your life to go through just swimming around, questioning your own existence every 5 seconds, coming back remembering it's all for nothing, and then 5 seconds later you live it over again. Those guys, they have heart. The fact that they even just can withstand that kind of mental pressure.
Tragic.
Something me and Gilly will never be able to understand. Maybe the members of Roll20 will, because they're down a whole game in this series, and I guarantee
I was waiting for that segue.
Expect it. You're
brilliant. 10 out of 10. Genji pickup. And Medivh is just banned by Gale Force.
Yeah, not wanting to deal with it. So, Gale Force eSports. What is this rotation? I still think the Uther will be picked up here. It's just who is matched with it.
Uther Greymane is a possibility.
I like Greymane the most, just because the map.
Or Dahaka.
They're going with the Dahaka. The reason I pull away from the Dahaka is I don't think it's unreasonable to expect Abathur on the side of Roll20. Snap Abathur Li Ming. It's looking grim here, Gilly. I feel like Roll20 already has just an extremely dominant composition. It doesn't accent the map, though, which is good for Gale Force eSports. They have well-rounded, but still can manipulate into control over the shrines.
Yeah, that double reset comp will be looking for kills more than looking for shrines. And after the fact, you can take a Punisher as sort of an afterthought, but it's all about the kills here. I'm really excited. I am enjoying this series, seeing how high priority Li Ming has. It has been a while since Li Ming has been favored in North America.
Yeah, she dropped off. I mean, she was almost non-existent for the longest while. She's had a bumpy road statistically, but she's back. As long as the Nubarak is a thing in this video game, she has seen some value, but then also with the implementation of Genji, these momentum-based team fights. And, you know, I feel like she would be a little bit more reasonable if things like Sylvanas were relevant, but with how low in damage, you know, those heroes that kind of just open up the game so very quickly are, it's nice to see her come back. The Arthas, removed by Gale Force eSports. Not going to say the word Illidan because it's just, I refuse to accept that. They're going to go Greymane again in this rotation.
That is interesting if Gale Force would be cool with playing Dahaka, Illidan, another warrior, if they are flexible, favoring that melee of compositions. But then again, there's Fan and Michael Udall, two classic Illidan players on this team. What else, though? There's no Vala Ariel possibilities along with the Uther.
The only other route I see this going
Stitches.
is Stitches, yeah. Just into like a Stitches KT.
Yep.
Wouldn't be terrible.
We've already got the Uther for the added CC after the Stitches hook.
I think it's one of those two routes. It's just Gale Force deciding what do they think they're better with. Neither. They just look us in the eyes and say, you know nothing, and just pick up the Dibbles and the Greymane. Diablo doesn't make too big of an argument into the composition of Roll20. Nobody has Shrine control, so there's no like heavy pressure onto the Shrine. Tyrion's picked up. So well-rounded comp here coming up from Roll20. Support. It's got to be Malf or Rhaegar.
Or Brightwing.
Not that one.
Fight time!
Not the one I wanted to see there.
It's fight time.
So that means they're going Judgment then? No, they aren't. The only reason I can see a major argument of moving into that Brightwing is if you're going into a teleport kill comp, which means like Judgment, using Genji as the follow-up, like just all-inning on somebody, blow them up, and then you win a fight. And that doesn't feel like the draft that Roll20 has so far. It's just...
Could you do it teleporting in on Genji, the Genji target, you have Leeming there, but then still have Tyrael with Sanctification to get through Apocalypse? I
mean, you could. It's just whether or not do those circumstances arise, right? Is the biggest problem. Why Brightwing falls into this weird area is she's actually insane in terms of what she can do as a support. Like her crowd control, her mobility is absolutely amazing. The problem is that you have to win the fight and open up the fight properly every time, or she goes, I can't make up for the mistakes that we made here. And so now with that pick again for Roll20, it means they need to start the fight and they need to end the fight very fast. Their comp can do that. And it's so momentum based there with the Brightwing, or excuse me, with the Li Ming and the Genji that it can get away with it. It just comes down to like, their execution has to be insane. It has to be near flawless, and Gale Force at any moment, especially into a support like Uther, if they just hit the pause button on these team fights, it should struggle, even if they don't go the polybomb route, because Brightwing just sacrifices so much in the healing department.
A composition that has so much control over the shrines for Gale Force eSports versus the kill composition, double resets. You have the Tyrael shielding to help as well as the Carapace to help with Brightwing. But can they do it with Brightwing? They are willing to put all their faith, all their hopes in one little fairy dragon when all is on the line for this series. Because we haven't really mentioned it yet, but between these two teams, it is very likely that this match becomes one that both of these teams look back on as pivotal to deciding which teams go on to the LAN events, like Western Clash and even BlizzCon.
Yeah, it's huge for them. It means so much more, again, because we talked about the difficulty of making that up, and according to the standings before, these teams are the ones fighting for that 1, 2, and 3 slots, and it was legitimately one series that decided where they ended up falling. So if Gale Force wins this game, the odds of them, stacking up towards the top of NA and placing number 1 and 2 is that much higher.
Well, ready for the game. Let's see if Gale Force eSports can do it and take out Roll20, get some revenge for playoffs, or if Roll20 takes us to game number 5.
I mean, with a draft like this, Gale Force is looking like they have a lot of opportunities. Again, we touched upon the strengths and weaknesses of Roll20. If they start the fight and they get a pick quickly, it's going to look amazing. It can snowball so very hard.
Glaurung playing Genji, Goku playing Abathur in this is just an interesting note for me to see. We've got Sonya played by fans, so yes, they are more than happy, more than comfortable to play multiple melee compositions.
Abathur starting up on top.
Carapace build.
That makes more sense now with the Brightwing. It's essentially going to be more cross-supporting from the Abathur and then the Tyrael to compensate for the lack of Brightwing effectiveness in team fights. And it's arguing that that will make up for that window of like the awkwardness of Brightwing in fighting. It's just whether or not they can get away with it. I do like the adjustment. I think it's necessary to be able to draft this, especially after losing that last game and then having the confidence to still bust out the Brightwing.
Oh my, things are getting
even in death
spicy. So even in death for Justin, watch how this affects his play.
They're going Judgment.
He's more trying to make sure that he is killed so that he can do more damage from that. This does it makes me think of Lucian and how Lucian from eStar played, where he was very aggro as his Tyrael, and when he got close to death, he never gave up. He never went back. He wanted to be killed because he knew that his team could get the kills. And in this instance, being able to give resets to Prismaticism and Glaurung off of that damage, if he has a good explosion around a shrine, that could give them a straight team wipe.
Yeah, you know, judgment or not, hey, they don't have to, and actually thinking about it more, I don't want to see them do that, but you are very much right. This is not this has never been done by a North American team. I don't think, from what I've seen, I've never seen NA do this, at least not for a long while, to move into the even in death strategy, which is essentially, it's just suiciding, but it's a lot better when you have an Abathur hat, because suddenly, if you've ever dealt with a Tyrael, like with an Abathur hat later stages of the game, he wins 1v1s into almost every hero, it feels like. Then you get into an awkward spot where if your backline can't deal with that pressure, they go, we'll just kill the guy, and then you're fine. But the problem with that is killing him now actually kills your backline on top of it. So focusing on to the proper target and who to focus on for Gale Force, it suddenly kind of becomes Illidan-esque. You need to be quick, you need to be burst focused, and it's in, out, and then you reinitiate after.
Something else to consider for the composition that Roll20 has is really just polymorph. So trying to make sure that there aren't heavy, you know, silence, stun roots for Roll20, and we've seen that more and more up against the new Uther with Guardian of Ancient Kings.
Shrine control completely over to Gale Force. Their draft showed it, but Roll20 doesn't even want to risk it. They've got the Abbey, they've got the slow start. This game is more about the mid and the late game here for Roll20.
Once again, Gale Force is delaying some shrines. So for what? To get more on the board, they get the mercenary camp over for the mid on their side. Yeah,
I mean, painting the map right is their biggest focus for now. Man, that makes me sad that they captured that. It's only one camp, and they didn't even rid of the one up on bottom. It's not like things were too bad for them. They did see rotation coming out from Dahaka up in the mid, but it's one they could have made up for. We'll see what they make happen here. Front wall is typically what we see onto the first Punisher, and it looks like that's all Gale Force will be able to gain.
No stealthies, and yet peekaboo still for vision control from Buds.
Glaurung with an Abathur hat. He's going to have a bright wing behind him. It's just more about the poke, the skirmishes. Dahaka's side soak for Gale Force has paid off. It's got them a little bit of experience. The front wall helping out there too. But they need more. This is an Abathur comp. We've seen, now that he's back in the meta, we've seen time and time again where his power spike is and where teams need to be able to deal with them. And usually you need almost a full level lead pre-10.
Yeah, Roll20 have been relying on Abathur to be able to soak both of the lanes so that they can keep their 4-man together. They want to clear out the mercenaries in the mid before it does much more damage and be able to get some mercenary camps for themselves. Level 7 almost here for Roll20. 7 is here for Gale Force. They're going to use that little amount of time where they have that advantage to take out the front wall here in mid.
See if they get any damage out here. It's just posturing. Gale Force is going around the map, cycling it out. Roll20, you can see them going like, hey, would you like to give us a fight? We would appreciate that. And it's been nice to see Gale Force moving out. But again, they want more front wall value. They need to get more pressure on. The fact that Udall hasn't even gotten a turret off in the side lane into an Abathur, that is a bit disheartening. And it doesn't even have to be necessarily the top lane specifically. It just needs to be Gale Force busting out those front walls. You have a Sonya and Dahaka. Those are really good 1v1ers and really good at taking out front walls. Put them on different parts of the map. Keep your tri-lane together. Try not to die, but at least you're getting some value here. Right now, it's just Gale Force is going. They're getting things, but not enough.
Man, things are leaning more and more toward a single target blow up, seeing that charged blast for Vala. But giving up dominance is scary for a Li Ming player who wants to be, I said Vala, but I meant Li Ming, up in their face, right? Not having dominance, not being able to have that forgiveness of as long as you get the kill, you get the health back.
Yeah, it makes their composition, yeah, that much more focused on what we talked about, how they need to open and it needs to be effective. Now not having the dominance of like, oh, the fight, I'm weak, I got to reset, it's okay. We've seen how valuable dominance can be and why it's pretty much only taken at level 4. Roll20. they obviously went into this with the intent of a unique strategy. We're yet to totally see it come online, but I'm optimistic here coming out from them, just because I feel like experience a lot of these unique strategies, especially from some of the European teams. You know, I can see like Roll20, or Fnatic ran nearly this kind of same strategy, a unique dive, bright wing focus too. So I'm just saying that I have faith that this is a little bit more calculated, and we're yet to see all the flash and pizzazz that this draft may have.
Here's where it happens. Dragon Blade. Disintegrate. And what? Justing. No Emerald Wind again. Blink heal. Trying to give the heals.
If you went Dragon Blade, I feel like it means 100% they're going Sync. You can't Judgment and it only be Judgment. There has to be.
He's doing it.
They're gonna go for it.
All right, so the Judgment fight's set up. They are ready to go in for this. There goes Apocalypse. Glowring's in the back line. K1 Pro is low. Has to get Divine Shield. Michael Udall's on the other side, though, trying to stop Prismaticism. Judgment comes out. It's on King Caffeine. Goku with the clone does a lot of damage to K1 Pro, but it's Fan who might go down, and Fan does.
There's the even in death. Throwing the Q over the wall. K1 goes down.
Nicely done. Roll20 knows, understood how far behind they were getting, but they had the app of their comp, and they could not let the bleeding go any farther. They stopped it. They're ready to get back into this game. They took out the fort in the bottom. They are dealing with top. They're going to try to open up this battleground.
They're going to need to. And now, we also have to keep in mind, that had a bit of surprise factor here for, Gale Force to experience how they wanted to approach the team fights, how Roll20 wanted to use the Judgment. Now they know. So we'll see how the next fight goes. Just when you see a draft and you expect it to be played a certain way, especially seeing the Dragon Blade, it doesn't go, okay, this is Judgment, this is Judgment. That was the first time we've seen Gale Force respond to it. We'll see if the next one's cleaner. I expect it to be a bit more cleaner and not as successful for Roll20, or maybe they're on to just the next new thing.
Well, there's no Hand of Protection for Uther. He does have the Guardian of Ancient Kings. So maybe it's designed to try to force out Divine Shield right at the beginning of a fight?
It could. You could argue that. I mean, if you just save your Frisbee or your Q, just every time the Judgment comes out, Judgment is more of a mobility tool than it is a damage tool with this strategy, right? It's like, I'm about to die, so I need to get onto the back line and make sure that I get that. So it's more of like just making sure, when he dies, he's going to be able to have the mobility. Somebody is 100% taking Tira's passive, making sure that that target is not vulnerable, is not the one going down. And the biggest thing is it's going to fall onto, it should be just Greymane, especially as this game moves on. Sonya only gets stronger and stronger. Diablo should not be vulnerable. Dahaka should be fine. Uther wants to take that damage. So it's just Greymane can't be vulnerable.
Well, in that instance, the first one to go down was Fan, and once again, the clone is working on bringing down Fan. May change later on, like you said. Once Ignore Pain's an option, Nerves of Steel is an option. 13 to 13 as the Shrine is active. This is the first one we see Roll20 care about, want to go after.
Yeah, they're really going to want to, especially breaking past that Abbott 13 mark. See who gets onto the altar. Gale Force has Shrine control. Roll20 doesn't. So even if Roll20 was to start it up, their entire thought process is going to be, we want to fight. They don't have clone yet. Either that or 20 seconds left. I was like, either that or I'm actually crazy.
They're just pushing bot. Roll20 give up another Shrine, respecting Gale Force's Shrine control. This is going to pull a lot of the members of Gale Force down to defend, but they can leave Sonya on the point, and she still will deal with it rather quickly.
It's going to be crucial over the next fight for specifically Caffeine to be a lot more patient with his APOC. The last one we saw had little to no value, and Roll20's entire composition is based off momentum and initiation on the fights. We touched up on that. So I want to note that as we know this next Punisher coming up is going to probably go over to Gale Force. Just that they need to make sure they use a better, or at least get some value in second guessing of positioning on the side of Roll20 whenever APOC's laid down.
Nice. Justing realizing that Fan is not on the Shrine. and that Gale Force were hoping to, again, do the same thing they had done before. But now Michael Udall has stalked in. Buds dodges the drag and polymorphs, hits Michael Udall. Apocalypse is down. Justing's in danger. He's going to go back in. Michael Udall is low, but K1 Pro standing strong. Burrow to dodge the explosion damage, and things are falling apart for Roll20.
Yeah, and look at that. With the flash thrown, Gale Force is going to get this Punisher 22 seconds before they're going to have Tyrael back to join in. And the Shaman camp up on top. This is all so perfect now for Gale Force eSports. They set their focus up towards the top keep. Even going to steal a Shaman camp behind it. Just double Shaman all the way. So now Roll20, they either respond towards mid and clear the Punisher for free, or they commit to the fight on top keep. Top keep is the best play just because not only do you have the option for kill potential, the Punisher is a terrible pusher, and it's only pushing the fort. So this is now Roll20 responding up on top. I'd love to see them take this fight.
Yeah, it's not 16 yet for Gale Force. So that means that Fan hasn't gotten that big spike with Nerves of Steel for the extra sustainability. But it is already getting hard for Roll20 to be able to get the resets for both Glowering, but especially for Prismaticism on that Li Ming to wipe the members of Gale Force.
Gale Force is winning the race to 16. If they just all in that turret, they would have it. The judgment is there. Divine Shield's going to be used. 16 is online, but a reset is there for the double Genji and the Li Ming of Roll20. 2 members of Gale Force already down, and Fan is quick to follow. Gloron goes down with a nice stun from Caffeine, but I don't think it's going to matter here, Gilly. That is a just slaughter here in the top lane.
And they reset the souls for King Caffeine. That was the exact moment when Roll20, once again, twice this game, Roll20 have known the exact moment when they have to engage, and they go in and they get it. Glaurung and Goku, the clone in the backline, wreaking havoc of the backline of Gale Force eSports. The Divine Shield was had to be used really early on in that fight too, so finally Roll20 get their opening through that fight. But again, what are they able to do with it?
Right now, it's just going to be denying camps. All 3 might be denied. They're going to be at the 16 talent tier. At best, it's posturing around a fort and trying to take advantage of a misposition of somebody. That is one of the biggest advantages of this style comp for Roll20 is in the mid to late game. If somebody's off on the side, normally you see entire teams have to huddle around and be like, all right, we're going to wait in this shrub, and if Dahaka goes too far out, this is when we're going to strike. Their initiation capabilities, you complemented their ability to take the fights they need. They have one of the best, like it's the easiest engagements in almost all of Heroes of the Storm, so they can try and hope for at least Gale Force to have that one member who goes out too far, and you don't go, man, can we really get this gank? They go, yes, we can get this gank because of the judgment and the Genji Avatar hat.
Roll20 are hoping to push somewhere. They escort the camp on the bottom, but now making the rotation up to mid to take down the forts. They really need to take out the forts of Gale Force, and then they've got to figure out what to do about shrines, because Gale Force so far has just been completely uncontested in the shrines, and now it's in the top lane where Gale Force applied a lot of damage to that keep already.
And the mid-fort, or mid-keep, excuse me.
Yep.
So this goes over to Gale Force eSports. It's enough to where they might be able to end the game, which is not common for this early on in the Punisher. That adaptation being forced, the flip over, that's only onto Tyrael. If he survives, this is going to be a huge moment, but he doesn't. The drag, and no judgment off. That is now a Roll20 Tyrael-less. Gale Force, man, we just made the argument of how they might be able to end the game with this. Now with that, it's pretty much a free shrine.
Yeah, they losing Tyrael there without being able to take advantage of his heroic going off is worst case for Roll20. And they were finally willing to fight over a shrine. Now they're scattering all across Infernal Shrines. They're going to send Genji to the bottom. The clone's already been used, so they can't even double Genji this, but they will bring Brightwing in. They're going to at least try to take out a keep.
Brightwing should be the one tanking if they're going to try and do this. Just mainly because the auto attack damage reduction onto Glaurung is worse in this circumstance, so as long as the Brightwing doesn't die, there you go. And now this is the keep threatened for Gale Force. They're going to be able to, I wanted to say take this out before the members of Roll20 can respond, but the hesitation and lack of commitment from the 4 members of GFE is just going to clear a wave. But they have the Punisher behind it. Again, the mid keep is already so very low that baiting it out to the mid keep is a free double keep and still possibly game for Roll20 or Gale Force eSports.
Roll20 this whole game has made or taken the fights they absolutely needed to. There's the dodge for the Punisher.
down to 80%. Stun against the wall, flip over. Judgment's interrupted.
Oh, he's gonna die again, but he's right on top of the team, and now Roll20 is going for it. They have Dragon Blade too, the explosion. Plus, the Dragon Blade does a lot to Gale Force's Aqua Phase, but he doesn't die. Brightwing and Ice Block comes out, has to blink heal out of Apocalypse, but does. Polymorph hits. They're trying to bring down Michael Udall. Dahaka goes down. Roll20 gets a kill.
Yeah, they get the pressure there, but isn't enough to peel away from the core. 37% onto that Punisher as it's now distracted, moving towards the mid-keep. The members of Gale Force eSports go towards the core, but Caffeine is so very low in HP. I don't know if they can. The Punisher's going to join, but he's, again, dead, Gilly. They go in, the shielding's removed,
K1.
80.
K1 is the big one to take out. They get him down. Sonya now, they have to get Sonya if they can. King Caffeine still on there too, pushing away, diving through because of Brightwing. We're at 20% and falling, but Fan
15?
is still perfectly healthy on this
Do they
core.
have Polymorph?
Can they do it?
They need the Polymorph. They don't have it. They do it. Gale Force eSports takes out Roll20 3-1.
The power of late game Sonya. Sonya Greymane on a core is pretty good.
It does the deeps, that's for sure.
Congratulations to Gale Force eSports. They get a victory over Roll20. They get revenge for the playoffs too, setting themselves up with 2 victories throughout this first weekend.
They just made me eat my words all day. Exact opposite of what I expected today when it came to the play here of Gale Force eSports. But you know what? I don't mind. I love when I'm proven wrong here and the analyst side of things. It's just so cool to see this from Gale Force eSports that it worked out. You know, but Roll20, with the Goku adjustments, both teams are through roster changes, so you can't make the argument of like, well, you know, which is better than which should be more stable. Just more importantly than anything, Goku put up a really impressive performance and definitely made an argument to deserve that transition in role swapping or team swap. I feel like because he's the only player for the most part who made a huge leap up. Right? When you look at every other roster swap, no one was like, I'm going to go from the mid, lower end of NA and all the way up towards the top. And he already made a pretty good argument for himself up there.
Yeah, he did an awesome job. It does feel like the last game, Roll20 they were really far behind, but it was a calculated behind because of their Abathur, but never, although they could win some fights, never were able to turn that into being able to bring back the momentum of the game. The shrines were so important for Gale Force, and they knew, again, their win condition to be able to win that game. So it's good to see from both teams that they're making their adjustments with their new rosters. I'm really excited to see both of those rosters as we move forward throughout Phase 2.
Yeah, and you saw the couple of windows where a team makes a comeback and you're just kind of like, well, you killed everyone, you won the fight, but how much can they actually get out of those, like, in these type of situations? And that's often why I talk about wave clear so often, how relevant it is because, yes, compositions that are really good at team fighting, when they win those late game fights, if they can't get anything afterwards, because those almost always suffer from the same problem. They can't tank down structures. They can't rid of minion waves. So that means they have to tank everything on their own, and they tank it very, very slow, which defenses are then really good up against, which is why we see so many crazy, like, oh, we have to get a keep here. And then it's like, well, your whole team wipes. Now we're going to go get your keep. It's just, it's a part of the meta here, and these teams are going to, I think, adjust a bit more, but it's really cool to kind of see that play out here in the tournament.
I think for Roll20 as well, seeing who played what in the last game, having Prismaticism on Li Ming, Goku playing Abathur, and then Genji played by Glaurung, they're still... We know how Roll20 likes to draft. They have so many different people who play so many different heroes, and so trying to figure out who is going to be best on what, that has obviously got to be a process for them, that we're still seeing them figure out who, at the end of all things, is going to play what when those types of compositions happen. But for now, Gale Force eSports, they've got their victory. Let's check in with Michael Udall. Hey, Mike, congratulations. How are you guys feeling after that victory? Did you feel like you guys would be able to win it that way?
I mean, we're feeling really good, honest. It didn't start out good at all. That Chris Hollow, or the very first game, I mean, even the second game, like, we had no right winning that. And then we just, like, came in. Like, we kind of started to turn the momentum, and I just kept telling the team we have to open to win conditions. Like, that's why we kept ramming our face into top keep. I mean, we're feeling amazing. Like, going into the weekend, like, I was pretty confident about our first match against Naventic, but our second match, I thought it was going to be a toss-up. Like, Roll20, they're a really, really good team. They just came off, like, a really good performance at the mid-season brawl. And we hadn't, like, practiced with Fan in a while. So, I mean, I'm really happy we beat them 3-1. I couldn't ask for anything better. And more than anything, I'm happy that we started off bad and we were able to recover, because that's something I feel like we used to not be able to do. We'd start off bad, and it was either we either 3-0'd, got 0-3'd, or it was a best of 5, you know? So I'm happy that we were able to, you know, best of 4.
That is exactly what Dread mentioned about you guys, either today or yesterday. But speaking of ramming your faces into the keep, I want to know how the change back into shot calling has been for you. We know that, you know, the pressure of packs before was kind of an issue. So what has the change been like for you, and how are you feeling about shot calling for the team again?
I mean, I'm really happy. I love shot calling. I'm very happy to come back. I kind of had a sour taste in my mouth after the last time, but it's been very healthy, and I've really been enjoying it. And I need to get a lot better. Like, there are a lot of decisions where I feel like, perfect example, Chris Hollow, we go up to the bot, keep on driving in, Genji are dead. Like, we have no right doing that. We should just go take mid 4 or top 4 type thing. So, like, I recognize that I'm still learning, but I also feel like I am a pretty good shot caller, and I feel like we are a lot more decisive at end game. Like, you see us end the game and not throw as much on cores like we used to. So I'm really happy that I'm shot calling, and I think just as the part 2 progresses, I think you're only going to see us get better.
That's good to hear. Dren?
For me, is just you guys find yourself in a bit of a unique situation in the fact that you had not only 2 roster swaps, but you had a roster swap of a duo that's stuck together for a long period of time. And I was just mainly curious of how does it feel like it's like a 3-2 split? Not so much in terms of personalities and everything, but like in game, do you ever feel like it's like, man, that's how they're so used to playing and it's like hard to adjust to them? Or does it seem to be everybody comes in with a clean slate and trying to work as a 5-man?
I mean, if you asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said yes, 100%. There is very much that, oh, this is how we used to do it, you know, compared to how we do it. But big props to King Calf and K1. They've really bought in, I guess, to our system. Everyone listens a lot to me, like I'm the main shot caller, and everyone really just buys into it, right? And that's how it needs to be. Everyone needs to buy in and listen to one person, regardless if it's the wrong call. It's better to 5-man do the wrong call than to like 4-1 split. So, I mean, big props to them. I know it has to be hard for them to adjust, but they've really bought in.
That's awesome to hear.
Well, Mike, on Friday, you guys take on Tempo Storm. You're already able to beat Roll20. What do you guys need to do in order to get that victory over Tempo?
I mean, I think we just need to keep doing what we're doing. Practice really hard, go over replays, just continue to get better. Like, for me, the biggest thing I'm focusing on is shot calling. I really need to improve that, as well as I'm basically just a tank player. Like, this meta, I pretty much just only play tanks, so I really am trying to improve that, because I was pretty good at melee, pretty good at range, and I'm really trying to improve my tanks. So just as a team, it's like going every single day, practice with a purpose, and, you know, get the most out of it.
Awesome. Congratulations, Mike. Again, good luck versus Tempo Storm next week. Shout-outs?
Yo, thank you so much. Shout out to all our amazing sponsors, NVIDIA, MetaThreads, you know, the beautiful Gunners, amazing Optic Eyewear, get some, and Twitch. Shout out to all our fans. If you want to hit us up, I stream on Michael Udall. Fans is SC2 TV, and King Calves is just King Caffeine. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye, Mike. Gale Force eSports taking a victory over Roll20, tying things up throughout HGC 2-2 between those teams now. Perfect. So glad.
Exactly what we would expect from them. You know, it's every time it feels like in NA we have a team that we expect to pull forward, it always gets dragged back into the group. Every single time, the top 4 at least, you know, just kind of reel it back in and be like, this isn't your breakaway. There's no way you're going to remain up there, and just keeping it close. It's a unique phenomenon. One that I'm still trying to understand, but it's cool to see it play out.
It happened in Europe too. Team Liquid getting a 3-0 over Team Dignitas. And that's why I say perfect, because I want to have that close competition at the top of the regions to better our region overall. That is it for our first series.